You want to do it right?
We're ready though. We'll call the meeting for the Land and Zoning Committee to order. Roll call, please.
Pat Kenny,
Here.
John Wiener,
Here.
George Mika,
Here.
Rick Popola, Dylan Jennings.
Here.
Okay, thank you all present. Next, we'll go to approval of the agenda.
I'll make motion.
Supervisor Mika makes a motion to approve, seconded by Supervisor Corporal. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next, we'll go to item 3, approval of zoning and land committee meeting minutes from July 15th.
I'll approve the land and zoning minutes from July 15th.
And I'll second it.
We have a motion to approve from Supervisor Weiner, a second by Supervisor Mika. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next, item 4, other business related to zoning.
I don't understand why he doesn't come and at least show the, whatever the costs are. You know, I assume that it's here.
So I was misunderstood. I didn't put that on the agenda because normally he talks about the revenue accounts.
Yeah.
And so since he wasn't going to be here, I didn't put it on the agenda,
I got that.
but I do have the information downstairs. So,
Well, that's okay. I was just curious why it didn't happen, that's all. But
so if he's not here, would you prefer for me to put it on there and then I can talk about it a little bit?
sure, next time, but I would think Josh should be here, that's all.
Okay.
He just should be.
You know, and a month isn't the big thing. It's just if you get 6-8 months in between
It's
those
3 months.
reports, you know,
3 months.
well, it's been 3 months, yeah. But
I'm just saying.
Yep, so it sounds like the committee would like to see those reports regardless if the zoning administrator is here or not. They could be in the packet, and then if there's questions, we could either ask at the next meeting or follow up with administration. Okay,
Sounds good.
thank you. Any other business? Hearing none, we'll move to the land description part of the meeting.
Those are new guests.
I don't know. Next, in the land description part of the meeting, number 5, public comments. Is there anyone here from the public that would like to speak? We have someone. Do you want to come forward, please? Or actually, let me show you this.
Whether it's on.
Perfect. How's it going this morning, everyone?
Good.
My name is Dwight Webb. I'm here to present an offer for the old Quick Mart in Glidden. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that property. I know it went up for auction a few times on one of the websites, the auction websites. And I'm from Rhinelander, Wisconsin. Drove up here, beautiful drive, by the way. It's a nice time of year. It's snowing in Iron Mountain quite a bit. Not used to that yet. But we have a property in Glidden. My family has property in Glidden. We bought it in 1989. So I'm partial to Glidden, been up here hunting since I was a little boy. And used to register deer at that gas station back in the day. And I saw it went up for sale. And I'm interested in that property. I worked with a similar property in Rhinelander where it has significant risk when it comes to environmental issues, property lines, there's no survey on it. The biggest part is the environmental stuff. It's kind of unknown with a huge possibility for an expense when it comes to environmental concerns. So my offer would be to purchase that as is, a cash offer, no contingencies, to take on that risk and liability to fix that property and get it back onto the tax roll as a working property. I've seen it set vacant for quite a while now. And every time I go up there, I'd like to see it into something that can better the Glidden area. I've talked to a few people locally and they have some ideas, but just to get that property back up and running, because it's right on 13 there. Everybody sees it when they drive through. So I was told by Jillian, and I've never met Jillian. I don't know if she's in the room or not. I know you're not Jillian. But she told Jennifer, I don't know if I've talked with you or not, but I was told to come today to present my offer.
Well, this is
Yeah.
public comment, so we can't respond to you during this portion of the agenda, during public comment.
Sure.
This is on the agenda for later. If you stay with us, and that's the contact you could follow up with after the meeting with questions and et cetera.
Okay, so this property is on the agenda later.
It's coming up under number 7 and 8
Seven,
there related to that.
Okay, perfect.
Oh, you put it under other business. I'm sorry. Yeah. So, okay. So, yeah. So it's coming up later in the agenda.
Perfect.
And then that would be your contact to have conversations later with. So
Okay, a question. What property are we talking about here now?
he's in reference-
It's 122 East Broadway, It's the-
2 East,
Glidden Quick Mart,
East, what was that?
122 East Broadway in Glidden.
okay.
My name is John Mayer. I'm the supervisor for this.
Oh, nice to meet you, John.
I just,
Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak during the public comment period? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 6, discussion/action of the payment plan policy. And we have our tax deed clerk here.
Yeah, so for this meeting, you all had requested that I get together a payment plan policy going forward, just so that we have, you know, kind of a better idea of something more concrete for us to follow, for committee members to follow, and to inform the public when they're making their delinquent payments. Yeah, so I'm not gonna go through the whole thing now. I would just ask if there's any comments or suggestions or edits.
You can let them know what I said.
Okay, do you want me to just read the whole?
Just kind of just of it, that's enough.
Okay. Yeah, so Supervisor Kinney had sent me an email with his comments about the policy. Just kind of some edits to adding some better definitions in under the background section to because it's kind of like a list of the process we go through to bullet that, so that's easier to read. Yeah, adding a definition for tax certificate. And then just kind of defining things a little bit more within the policy instead of just statute reference. Let's see. I know in the email you had some questions as well. Do you want me to address
Sure.
those? Okay. So as far as like the payment plan itself, you had asked on our property subject to tax deed list that the payments shown are only for delinquent taxes, and yes, they are. And the payment plans would be for essentially the amount of delinquent tax on the years that are subject to tax deed. So for example, this year, it would be for any delinquent tax on 2018 and prior. So 2018, 17, 16, as far back as that would go.
For clarification, what about 19 and 20 if they're behind on those? You have that kept separately?
Yep, yeah, so we keep track of that separately. I don't think that I would want to include that in this payment plan policy, just because like, I feel like the purpose of this is to get them caught up so that they're not at risk for foreclosure. Obviously, we'll encourage them to keep paying, but I don't think we should have that as a requirement.
So you use the term caught up. So if they're behind on 19 and 20 taxes, it's not included in the payment plan policy. But if they're behind on 19 and 20, they're not caught up in the sense of being current on their taxes.
Right.
Yeah, because they're not out of compliance in 2 years, you got 24 months if you read it. You can take tax title after 24 months. So they're really in compliance up to 2 years, it's just that they're, being charged 12%, 18%,
Mhm.
Has this program been in place before?
No, this is brand new. We didn't have like an official policy. So that's why I had created this, because we wanted something a little more official.
I like that approach, and the reason I say that is I was approached by one of the people on here, Tom Clavette. And I asked him, I said, well, if we take tax title, because he owes $12,000 in back taxes from 2017, 18. And then, of course, his new ones are not subject to tax title. So he's only behind, what, $7,000. And I said, well, what happens if we would take your property? He said, I can't. I said, can't you go to and get a loan? He says, no, I can't get a loan unless my taxes are paid. And so we had a little discussion on it, and I said, well, what if we do this? He says, well, can you grandfather me in? And if you look at the payments, he's been, this year already, he's made what, $4,000 or $5,000. So within a year and a half, he should have his back taxes, and he should be getting real close to being paid up, because he's been doing a fantastic job. Every couple months, he's paying 450, 500. Every month he's been doing that. And he says, he said, I want to keep the house. We're making improvements, and you can see the improvements up to 99,000 and with improvements. So if you get him to sign something like that, he'd be happier than a lark, and so I like that approach.
Okay, and then are there any, as far as exemptions, I know we had wanted to have the option to give exemptions. Were there any other comments on adding any exemptions? I know Supervisor Kinney had said in his email that that he thought that was fine, just the way it was listed on the policy so far, but to add a line like the county may consider other hardships, but retains the right to take the property by tax deed. So that we could have some leeway as far as, making a judgment on giving someone an extension.
And that's intended to let staff make that.
Yes,
decision.
yeah.
Using your judgment on that, but the part about the county retaining the right, making it clear.
Yes.
That a person, just because they say, hey, I've got a hardship.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean it's automatically approved, but they have to understand that the right, it's still the county's right to say no to that. And to take the property if the county has the right to it.
If this gets okayed, then it goes to the full board?
This doesn't have to go before.
I don't think this has to go to the full board.
Policy, and we're ready to tax collecting agencies, so the only time we gotta go before the full board is we give like a piece of property to the city, or we quit claim deed it to somebody for, then you gotta go to the full board. If you're giving something away, we're not giving nothing away, so I would assume
We're trying not to.
we're trying.
So are you gonna revise
I
the
can see
documents
that
that we
the,
have and then
board
bring
would be
this
up
back
there
to us?
on all that.
Yes, yeah, I can revise the documents and then I can bring them back for the next meeting, if that's what you want. yeah, definitely. I'd like to have a meeting. Well, we'll have to have a meeting in December if we do the land sale. But because I kind of want to have this policy ready and in place before our next like cycle of tax deed process. So.
Which is coming up right now, next month.
Next month is when the current year taxes come out, but it would be, I'd like to get it in place before the end of the year at least. And then if not, January at the latest, just so we can have time to put in our initial letters out to people. We can include language and maybe even a copy of the policy.
Send this one, or what else would you send with that? An extra
We would
thing?
send,
So the one behind, both of those.
I don't have a copy of it here, but usually in February, we send out to all the people who are delinquent 3 years back. We send them kind of like a warning letter, like, hey, this is, you have delinquent taxes for such and such year. If you don't pay them by May, we will serve a tax notice of application for tax deed on you and start the foreclosure process. So we'd want to let them know of the policy and of the payment plan option before then. So.
So when I read this, I tried to read it from the perspective of, is this a document that staff can work with as they do their job? Is it a document that, you know, like when I was new here, I was trying to figure out how does this all work? And I was looking for something in writing for guidelines. And so this will be helpful to supervisors, I believe, too. And then for you to work with people that are behind so that they have something in writing that they can follow and, you know, make sense to them. And so hopefully the list gets shorter than in the future for you. Well, sometimes just good information and process and, you know, helps with some things. So,
Every little bit helps.
yeah. So is there anything else on this then?
I guess I do have like just one more thing. One more thing to discuss. And referencing your email, Supervisor Kinney, you had offered a little excerpt of for one of our letters at the end, and at the end, it reads, even though your property tax payment agreement has been voided, you can still avoid tax foreclosure by paying the balance in full prior to the land and zoning meeting where the committee can foreclose on your property, or by reaching a new property tax payment agreement with the tax deed clerk. And I guess my only kind of question or concern I have is by reaching a new property tax payment agreement, because I'm just concerned that some people would, because we already have people like this that abuse our payment plan system, where we say, you know, if you have a payment plan, we won't necessarily take a tax deed on your property as long as you're consistent. And then they'll stop making their payments. We'll say, hey, we could foreclose on this property. They'll come in, make a new payment plan, pay once, and then disappear.
So it's in the end of that, there was a sentence in the first full paragraph where it says in the middle, I encourage you to continue making payments to avoid tax foreclosure. And I understand what you're saying. And I think the language has to be developed so it really works and is clear for everybody. So just because you keep making payments doesn't guarantee you avoid foreclosure. You can make payments of $100 a year and that's not going to avoid foreclosure. But at the same time, we don't want to promise them something. So the last edit there that you asked about, it's interesting you asked about that, or reaching a new payment plan, is because they do have the option. If they miss a payment, they have an option of coming to you and saying, look, you know, can we revise this? And on the revision, my sense of that language meant that also could add to the length of time that they have. So instead of the year, okay, now maybe it's going to be 15 months. So you have discretion there in terms of revising that. So I use the term reaching a new agreement with the intent that that is your decision and not the person who's behind. if you think that needs to be written more clearly or directly, or maybe broken into 2 sentences that make it totally unambiguous, please do that, because I want to make sure that staff in this committee retains the right to decide whether those extensions are granted or not. Many of you know that I taught for a living. I had Jennifer as a student. And so, you know, you hear endless reasons why people get behind, et cetera. And one of the things that happens is people will say, oh, I emailed you that, you know, I couldn't make it today and whatever. And they think just because they gave a reason why something isn't done, that that's an automatic pass to turn it in later or whatever. And when I started teaching, there was nothing late. You never accepted anything late. You missed a test, you got a 0. That's how it was. By the time I retired, the culture was with administration, you couldn't hardly say no to anybody for anything. And it got really hard. And so what you're having to do here, I'm really sensitive to making sure that you have the backing of the committee and things in writing so that you can make those decisions and that they can then be followed and enforced. And the people who are behind hopefully clearly understand this is your decision on whether they get an extension or not. It's not their decision. And so whatever language you want to put in there to make that really clear would be very helpful, I'm sure. Because you're the one dealing with them.
Well, it's a good thing you bring that up, because if you look at a page 4 of 6, you got this Anthony Mitchell, and he owes over $23,000. Now, he's made $250, $250, and two $500 payments, which comes out to $1,500, but the penalty is over $4,000 a year. If you look at 18% times 23,000 is 4,000. So he ain't even gonna pay half. If he makes 2 more payments, he won't even pay half of the penalty in that. So those are, and he's got 4 properties. And you know, is he in the same chapter as like Clavette, where you can't get no money because, but he's got 4 properties, maybe it's time to sell one of them or 2 of them or whatever. And, you know, we hate to force him to that, but what are you gonna do? That, you know, you're talking $24,000 in back taxes. Why don't you help him out? Come on, you gotta
Actually, I
retire.
didn't know the guy from way back, but no, I won't help him. He's a good guy, but I can't.
You could at least send him maybe some candy for.
The other thing, if you're putting together a document with all of this, you do have a letter suggesting, among other things, try to take out a loan or consider selling your property. I think at least for supervisors that are new to this, it was nice to see that letter, to know that you're doing that and you have that letter. So if you add that to the packet, then as you get new people on this committee, they know that you do that. So, okay. All right. Anything else? All right, we'll move on then to item.
We're not gonna make vote on this yet, or?
Well, she's going to do a revision based on the discussion and comments.
Okay.
And then come back to us in December, hopefully. Okay. So next we'll go to 7, discussion/action of property subject to tax deed.
Okay, so, yeah, so in the packet, so we're on the tax deed notice served list. And there are several properties highlighted in yellow and also noted on the heirs form of properties that no payments have been made and we're past the date where we can foreclose. So I would ask for a motion to take a tax deed on the following parcel numbers. 014-00180-0900, which is the Becker Trust property. 020-00059-0000 Caldwell Miskowski. 022-01094-0000 Barbush Trust. 201-00937 Keys, 201-03597 Kegel, and 201-00909 Higgins, which is all the properties highlighted in yellow and noted on the heirs form, except the parcel in Butternut owned by Melissa Dorner. So I'd seek a motion to approve taking those properties on tax deed.
Well, you can't do it yet, can you? You have to wait till springtime?
No, we can foreclose on properties at any time of the year. Yeah.
People out.
None of these are homes. These are all vacant land.
I gotcha.
Jennifer, going back to this Ron Hill. He was my best friend. He passed away last week there, so he will, his daughter will be getting a hold of you and try to get her land straightened out.
They paid
Oh, did they?
Friday, yeah.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, the Ronald Hill property has been paid in full now.
I make a motion that we set the properties and put them up for tax lien whenever you want. How does that sound?
Yeah, motion to take tax deed on those parcels as discussed.
Right.
So we have a motion from Supervisor Corporal. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second from Supervisor Weiner. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next, we'll go to item 8. Discussion. Set values and dates for land sale.
So for this, I'm almost wondering if we should change the order of the agenda just slightly, because I did throw on that gas station in Glidden. I threw it on this list, but we should probably discuss the offer first. Yes.
When you say offer, what do you mean?
From Dwight.
Can we discuss and consider accepting an offer without this going back up for auction?
We have never. There would have to be a change in policy. I don't think we've ever taken, as long as I've been here, and I've been here almost 30 years.
I think it needs to go back to the land sale, what we planned on.
Lifetime.
That way there's other people interested in it.
I thought you were gonna.
I don't remember the
Per diem,
statute, but
$200
I think-
over 25 years.
Guys, go ahead.
I don't remember the statute exactly, but I know it has to be listed at least one time for a public auction, which it already has been multiple times. And then otherwise, I think the statutes just say the county can sell the property in a manner they see fit.
So there were several people that had expressed an interest, although it turned out nobody actually bought it. So,
Well, the problem you get into is if you do it once, then you get into this political arena where when we did it for him because he knows you, you know. Well,
Okay.
if you remember just a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago now, where we took a chunk of land and we sold it. And then the lady came back and said, well, wait a minute, I'll pay the taxes, you know, and the discussion was, well, she had 340s and somebody paid it on 2 and they didn't pay it on the 3rd. And then the guy, what was it, 45,000 he bid on it. And he came back and he said, oh, wait a minute, you know, you take that back and give it to her, you're gonna hear from my lawyer.
The county does have a policy that I think was passed in the 1950s that allows a previous owner the opportunity to repurchase it, but we're not talking a previous owner here. So the question, unless we're sure that we could deal directly, but even if we could, do we want to? Do we want to put this up for auction?
But you hit it on the head. We will always sell it back to a relative of the former owner, which could be the person
Yeah.
in town or somebody who's related. That has been a policy ever since I've been on the board. We'll always, somebody owes, $2,700 and a child or somebody comes and says, that was Ma's or Dad's and here's the money. And we've always done that. The penalty is usually $100 and tax, so that's always been a policy, but just to go out and
Yeah.
sell it to somebody,
Supervisor Weiner?
I've been working on this gas station for over 3 years now. And we had a couple land sales, which didn't really go through the best. So, but then the last one was on an owner's contract. But the two people that were interested in before, they just kind of slacked a little bit too much. So I'm pushing more to where this thing has been going on for so many years that I think that it would be better for us if we have an offer to accept that offer now, instead of waiting for like my friends to come along and say, oh, okay, I'll take it. But then he snoozed too much and then he got in too late and he called Jennifer the next day. He says, oh man, I'm sorry, I got the cash for me right now. I'll bring it up to you right now. Well, he was a day late, but there's these two people are still interested in it, but I'm getting to the point as this thing has been going on, and it's been a stress for me because I go to the board meetings in town and every time I go there, I said, oh yeah, it's gonna be sold, it's gonna be sold, it's gonna be sold. Well, again, I think that we need to, if there's an offer, we should accept that offer.
In my mind, there's two questions. One, do we have the legal right to do that? And two, I'm concerned about the precedent.
Probably not, because it's got to go to a land auction again, or land sale again,
Yeah.
which is okay.
Yeah,
It's okay, it still gives these other people, if
Yeah.
it's the law, it still give these other people a chance.
yeah,
Besides this guy here, we have really interested in it. So,
yeah. I guess my preference would be, we put it up for auction, make sure these two connect. And so, he's fully aware of,
yeah, I mean, it's been a headache for me. I've been working
Yeah.
on it. I got the
And-
DNR to take, and then also I got a question for you, Jennifer. You got on there, it says contamination under canopy. There is no contamination under the canopy.
No, there is contamination. The contamination has not been taken care of.
All the paperwork I gave you was, the only place left was the place right, there's a diesel tank right next to the kiln, and that was a question on that, but the tanks were removed.
Right.
And completely contamination was removed under them tanks, underneath the canopy, and that's where the gas fuel tanks were.
You really need two microphones. You're correct. The gas tanks were taken out. But that does not mean the contamination was taken care of. They took the tanks out, they did a soil test, they found contamination in the soil.
The soil test is approved. on the
Yes.
paperwork that I gave you. So that means
The soil,
you're clear of that.
no, the soil test indicated that there was contamination, not that it was clear.
So when they took the tanks out, they didn't take the contamination out of the ground, they got to
Mm.
do this whole thing again?
Well, it's not really the DNR's responsibility to clean that up. They just took the tanks out. I don't think that they are responsible for cleaning the property. That's the property owner's responsibility.
You know, did clean it up. They're the ones that charges $27,000. And then I got that waived because
The $20,000 charge was for removal of tanks. I guess I had spoken to someone at the DNR and then reviewing their paperwork that it indicated there was still contamination. So
So on this property, does the committee want to put it back up for auction and make sure these two connect? Or do we want to consider something else?
Put it up for auction is my opinion.
I'll second it.
Yeah, I just, I'd rather not get into that arena of starting to, and I accept your thoughts, we want to get this done. It's been sitting there and it's sit there, but when you look at an assessed value of $195,000 and our starting bid is at 5,000, I mean, that's a pea in a bucket compared to what the assessed value is.
Of note, the property hasn't been reassessed in quite some time, and I feel like that is a very high assessment for that property. I don't think it's worth that.
Well, but even if it was worth 100,000, I mean, you're talking a starting bid of 5,000 and we got 20 against it. Somebody, even if we went and said, well, okay, if you want to pay the back taxes and that's over $20,000, we're starting a bid at 5,000. That's a different, that ain't even apples to oranges, that's apples to bananas. No.
Yeah,
Well, once it goes back on land sale, then they would put bids in on them. So
yeah.
I
And-
think that's might be a better way to go. I guess if George concerned about the price of it, then maybe we better go back to the land sale of it.
And what was said about the assessed value, I would agree that it's way too high, but that also then means that the back taxes on it are probably well above what they would be had it been assessed for the condition it's really in. So if the committee wants this property to move, that price of 5,000 should move it, which is less than where we were previously. So we'll have an opportunity to set the price again or reaffirm the 5,000. We can price it so it hopefully moves this time.
Could we accept the lower bid? If they didn't put up 5,000, if they offered 3,000 or?
No, we put our bottom bid on right here at
Okay.
our base. Now, if it don't sell, we can drop it,
Okay.
and the next, this, the way Jen is doing it now, we could have a sale. If none of this sells, we can have another one in January or, we can have them whenever we want. That is nothing. And now with being on the internet, it's a whole different world. You don't have to do all that other paperwork and, so I like what she's doing with it and, if it don't sell, put it up again in a month or two or four. She's got time.
Well, I feel that's probably a fairly decent price, but you gotta realize too that this has been on, auction, what do you call auction? Land auction.
Wisconsin
for,
surplus auction, yeah.
Yeah, so there was never even a bid put on it. So we do gotta realize that we're at a point where if we get no interest and we have interest, we should be at that point, maybe.
So in terms of where we're at with the meeting, do you want to talk about the Glidden property specifically to start with, or do you want to set the date for the auction and then do the Glidden station separately, or do you want to put them together? The committee sounds like it wants to send it to auction again, which means we could revisit the price.
Yeah, so we can just go ahead with the auction stuff. We can just discuss that now.
Okay,
I just didn't want to approve the auction and then have to go back and take the gas station out or something.
so if we have a motion to approve a date for the auction, that it would include the Glidden property. Okay. And then we're gonna have to approve the prices that are set too. And you'd want us,
All one motion.
and you'd want us to probably in particular, pay attention to the price on the Glidden property to see if that's a price we want to stay at or change.
Well, I can put it on the floor and we might as well set the prices right now. She got all the prices she'd like to start with right on the starting bid price. So we might as well make that all in one motion. I mean, so I'll put it on the floor to pass, have the auction and the bidding prices that were suggested. Everybody got that? These are the bidding prices that she suggested. It would be the, and now being that it's on the floor, we can change them if we want. But those are those are your thoughts and I'm good with those, you know.
I'm good with them too. Apparently up with these prices on here.
So in the Glidden property, last time we had it set at 15,000, now we're setting it at 5,000. Okay. We really, yeah, we really shouldn't, because the point of the auction is that everyone in the public has the opportunity, same opportunity as far as making a decision on bidding on the,
Unless
Property.
you go way back and
yeah.
find a relative of the former owner, because our policy is to sell it to a relative of former owner for what we got on the tax, which
Yeah.
would be $20,000.
Yeah.
Do
So.
you have this?
So what we're discussing here is a list of properties that the county has, and they would be sold on the Wisconsin surplus auction site. There's a minimum bid for each property. We're discussing the minimum bids at this point. And once it goes online, then everyone would have an opportunity to bid on that property. And your contact is the tax deed clerk, Jennifer, here. So previously we had set it at 15,000. It didn't sell. Now we're looking at 5,000.
Okay, sounds good. I'm just curious because my offer is what you're starting it at. So if you're okay with getting $5,000 at auction, but I get the public part of it. And with the environmental stuff, the continuing obligation from the DNR for the environmental issues.
Yeah, so, yeah, we have to put it up for auction, so, okay. Any other discussion on the properties and the minimum bids that are recommended? So we
Yeah,
have-
this is Supervisor Jennings. I just want to make the point, and I agree it, try to be as fair as possible, but I think we should really revisit some of our policies on contaminated properties. It just doesn't seem like those are apples to apples when it comes to consideration of other properties and trying to move them. And there are a lot of other obligations that go along with them than, just your average property. And so, I don't know if that's something that our zoning team has looked into before as to how, if other areas are, have different, policies or different means to get rid of them or what. But I think that just in general, the timeline too, I mean, it can't be good to continue to leave that contamination there. So to me, it kind of seems like, the more expedient, the better for us on any of these types of properties. And I don't know if we deal with other contaminated sites, but I just want to make that point. It's not apples to apples when it comes to this type of property and other properties.
And it's not apples to apples, but that's why the starting bid price on this has been much lower, especially than the assessed value. I'm hoping to move it earlier. And now we're coming down from 15,000 to 5,000. And hopefully that moves it. And the county does not have an obligation to clean it up, if there is contamination before selling it. So the
And
way
that's what I'm getting at is there's no, but we're probably liable if somebody sets foot on that property and something happens to them because there's contamination there, or if something starts leaching into the water table. I mean, I think about all these things environmentally speaking, and it's, nobody has to clean it up until somebody assumes ownership of it. And so we just decide to leave it contaminated. I don't think that's good practice.
Any other discussion or comments? So we had a motion by Supervisor Mika. We had a second by
Wiener?
Supervisor Weiner. Ready to vote then?
What was the motion again? To accept the prices? Can we also throw in there to start the auction on November 5th? The Eric's form says what the motion is that I need, but.
So we have a motion to approve the land sale value as presented and set land sale to start on November 5th and to run through December 3rd on the Wisconsin surplus site. Ready to vote then? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next, we will go to other business and setting a next meeting date. Is there any other business? Next meeting date?
gonna have a meeting in December, or are you gonna?
Yes.
Yeah, well, I suppose with the auction, what's your, when you're gonna put this out for auction?
We can have a meeting on December 7th.
November 5th through December 3rd. The auction will run November 5th through December 3rd.
So that the auction will be done by then?
So-
Okay.
So December 7th at 9 o'clock? Okay. Hearing nothing else under other business, we'll move to the land records portion of the meeting. Number 10, GIS coordinator report.
Thank you.
Um,
This one? Okay. All right. Hi, everybody. I have presented what I've been doing in the GIS department for the last couple months. Pretty lengthy one since we haven't had a meeting in a while. Really got the budget done, and then I've been working on redistricting for the most part. So I don't know if anybody has any questions on what I've been doing.
I guess the only question or comment I would be, and I'm just going to leave this with you, is earlier this year, I believe, we realized the second landing was not on the, when you do a Google search, it did not show up as boat landings.
Oh.
And so I pointed that out, and there also wasn't a sign on the highway saying second landing or boat landing. I went out there to look at it. So I guess as we think about the tourism and business aspect of things, one of the questions I'd like to get to at some point, but not today, is how do we make sure the things that we want the public to know when they do a search for tourist-related things, business-related things, that those things are popping up? Because people put a lot of investment, into those things, and it's nice if they show up on those searches. to
Yeah,
capitalize.
I don't recall that being pointed out previously. Maybe I just missed it. We don't have any, Google is their own entity, and even if we have a road name that is incorrect on Google, they are very hard to work with to get any data updates. But I do annually distribute to a company called Here Data, and they actually buy Google
Okay.
buys data from Here. So I can try to work with them to get more recreation information passed on to Here. We give Here data
Okay.
for free, and then they buy it, Google buys it from them. Even if we try to solicitate with Google directly, they don't have that channel open for local government right now.
Yeah, what happened when we were looking at the boathouses earlier this year, I did a search to, just where is that? And it didn't show up in the search, and then I drove down the road, and then there was no highway sign, and I thought, well, this is, we got to catch a few of these things. And so another day we'll have a conversation on how we get these things to show up,
Okay.
so that the money we spend and business owners spend, people can find these things.
Yeah,
Okay.
sounds great.
Yeah, there's a sign, but it's a block off the road.
Right.
Okay, is there anything else with the GIS coordinator report?
No, I don't have anything for you guys
Okay.
really.
Okay,
This report, do you make this up or you just add to this?
I create this every time we have a meeting, so I started from scratch. And this is everything I've done from the previous meeting till about 2 weeks ago, the 17th of October. So,
Very well done, thank you.
yeah, you're welcome.
number 11, any other business?
None?
Then we just need a motion to adjourn. Or we could say we've completed the agenda and we're done. Does anyone want to make a motion to adjourn?
And I second.
Motion to adjourn by Supervisor Corpola, a second by Supervisor Mika. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned.
Maybe we shouldn't have Josh here more often.
I know.